As we talked about in our overview of table joins, an inner join between two tables returns only the records that exist in both tables, while a left join returns all records from the first table along with matching records from the second table. In this video, we'll use SQL to explore the practical effects of these two different types of joins so you can better understand them. We're back in pgadmin, and we're still querying the films that actor Woody Hoffman starred in. To start, I want to demonstrate how you can filter your data not only in the where clause, but also in the from clause. So, let's take our query for all of Woody Hoffman's films, and let's add another criterion to our left join to the film table. Add another line, and we'll say left join film on film.filmid equals filmactor.filmid, and film.title equals snowman roller coaster, and then run the query. Now this is interesting. Our results are still showing 31 rows, but only one of those rows has a film title in it. You can see Snowman Roller Coaster at the top of our table. So, by adding this filter criterion in the from clause, what exactly did we do? The answer is, we filtered the film table down to just one row. In this scenario, imagine that we still have all the rows in our actor table and all the rows in our film actor table, but due to a lack of referential integrity in our database, all the films except for Snowman Roller Coaster have been deleted. The result would be very similar to what you're seeing now. By putting a filter condition on our left join to the film table, we reduced the number of rows Postgres could look up. So, what happens if we put that filter criterion in our where clause? Something very different. Let's cut and paste that line into the where clause and run it again. Now, we're only getting one row. This illustrates the difference in how filters are applied in the from clause versus the where clause. Now, this can get confusing. I've had to explain this to experienced data analysts before, and it made them scratch their heads in frustration until they got it. I tell people to think of it in terms of, when is this filter being applied to my data? If I add the filter to one of my table joins in the from clause, I'm filtering that table's data before the join. But if I add a filter to the where clause, I'm filtering that table's data after the join. Another way of showing it is this. We'll put the filter back in our from clause, and we'll comment out the filter in our where clause. This takes us back to the original situation where we're getting 31 rows, and 30 of those rows don't have a film title. But if we take the same query and uncomment the filter in our where clause and run it again, we take our results back down to a single row. In this case, we filtered the film table before the join, narrowing its data down to just the film Snowman Roller Coaster. However, in the film actor table, there are still 30 more movies that Woody Hoffman starred in, and those are still included in our results. But when we use that same filter in the where clause, we're filtering after the join. We're filtering the result of that join. And because we're doing that in the where clause, it narrows our entire result set down to just that single row where the film title is Snowman Roller Coaster. And this refers us back to the video that we did in week 1 where we talked about the SQL order of operations. All of that applies in this circumstance. So, what do I recommend? I almost always recommend consolidating your filter criteria in the where clause, unless you need to use the other technique. Keeping your filters in the where clause will make your code easier to read and interpret. Not only that, but as you've seen in this example, putting the filter criterion on that left join gave us inaccurate results. We wanted to only see the film Snowman Roller Coaster, but instead we got 30 more films, and all their titles were null because of the filtering that we did. Now, how does this help us understand the difference between a left join and an inner join? First, recall that an inner join returns only records that exist in both tables. Let's go back to our query, delete the film title filter from our where clause, and run the query with the filter only in the from clause. So we're getting back 31 rows, and all but one of the rows displays a null title for the film title. Now, let's take that left join to the film table and let's turn it into an inner join, and then run the query again. Interesting. Now we've only got one row returned by our query. So let's walk through what happened here. We filtered the film table on Snowman Roller Coaster, but we specified that the join should only return matching records between the film table and the film actor table. By specifying an inner join between those two tables, and by only returning matching records, our film table has actually filtered the film actor table. So now it's like the other 30 Woody Hoffman films in our film actor table have gone away. They were filtered out of our query. This is pretty much the same effect as if we put the filter in our where clause, like we did earlier. You should play around with this some more. Move your filter conditions into different parts of the query and run it again and again, and watch how the position of the filter criteria affects the output of your SQL. Most of this video, I've been showing you different ways to write a query so you could see varying effects of the left join versus the inner join. But let's get to the point. How would I write a SQL query if I wanted to see all films that actor Woody Hoffman has starred in? I would write it like this, with inner joins to each of the tables I need and my filter criteria specified in the where clause. And how would I write a SQL query if I wanted to see all actors who starred in the film Snowman Roller Coaster? I would do it like this, again, with inner joins, but in the where clause, I'm just going to say where film title equals Snowman Roller Coaster. This is the basic technique to start with. As we dive into more advanced SQL techniques later in this course, I will show you some situations where putting your filters in the from clause will still be necessary. One more thing about inner join. In the same way that the outer keyword is redundant for left joins and right joins, the inner keyword is actually redundant on inner joins. You don't need to specify it. Instead, you can just write out join, and the result will be the same. I still use inner join, even though the inner is redundant. I guess the reason is because we still say inner join when we talk about inner joins. But if I was to tell you in this course you need to join table A to table B, would you know which kind of join I'm telling you to use? Would you assume I'm talking about an inner join? Or could I be talking about any kind of join, like a left join or a right join? If I'm giving you explicit instructions on how to write your code, I'm going to want to be as specific as possible. So I'm going to say inner join to be more clear with my directions. This is why I think it's good to just go ahead and write out inner join, so that the way you write your code reflects the way you would talk about how to write your code.